Now that we have the recipe to a successful 20% project down, it's time to witness what this recipe has to offer. Let's begin with a gallery walk of a 20% project of my own, one that I was able to execute in the spring of my junior year. For my 20% project, I created a pop-up restaurant in the basement of my high school. With a team of over 20 students, we fed 3-course prefix dinners to over 40 diners in the course of a single night. This pop-up restaurant was a huge part of my application. While it wasn't as important as my essays or writing, which was my biggest edge, it definitely helped me distinguish myself from other students. I was originally going to create a robotics app to promote a CS edge for my application, but I knew in my heart I didn't have the passion to sustain me through months of that. Eventually, I decided to dedicate my time, energy, and most importantly, passion into a completely unrelated project, designing a restaurant. And I'm so glad I did. Let me say it again. I loved this project. It started off slow, maybe 1 hour a week, but as I got into the project and got closer to the restaurant opening day, I started working on it for 5 to 6 hours a day in crunch time. It sounds like it might be miserable, but it wasn't. In fact, it was the total opposite. I was finally working on something that I found personal meaning in that combined all of my passion. It didn't feel like work, and most importantly, it went beyond the grade of the class. It wasn't about hitting some metric anymore. It was about executing the project to the best of my ability. That's what I'd like you to remember from the eye of my project. There's no need for it to revolve around a particular academic subject. It can, but it doesn't have to. A well-planned project is one that is first and foremost fun and fulfilling to you. So many people helped me throughout the process to the point where I couldn't have achieved a single part of the project by just my efforts alone. For one, I couldn't rely on myself for things like having live restaurant music or designing the aesthetics of the restaurant interior, because those were skills that I simply didn't have. So I reached out to all of my friends from the orchestra and local bands. Amazingly, a ton of them managed to perform that night, whether it be in duos, trios, or sets. Some of them had even performed in state competitions and were amazingly talented. As for some of the more artsy parts of my project, in my drawing classes, I scoured for an artist that would accept my commission. It was a tiring process for sure, but eventually I managed to convince my friend, who'd won a Scholastic Gold Key, to create the logo for Out of the Bloom. It really was an invaluable experience leading a team. There's no reason you have to do everything by yourself. Get people who are talented and ask them to help you. You'd be surprised by just how many say yes, especially when you make them feel valued. Legitimacy. Legitimacy starts by convincing yourself, do I feel like I've grown? Did the people who participated feel like this event was fun, beneficial, valuable? When you yourself and the people you have helped believe your project is legitimate, it becomes far easier to talk about in a way that conveys legitimacy to outside sources like media or admissions officers. Next, legitimacy comes from outside. While this next stamp of legitimacy might not be immediately available for your 20% project, I managed to obtain a nifty connection to a local news station through my orchestra teacher. They had the entire camera crew come in, interview me, and put me on a segment that night on TV. Uniqueness. Remember that robotics app I've been contemplating? Well, I knew a fair share of kids who had the competency to build an app and knew I wouldn't be standing out much here. Yes, I'd learned how to code, but it certainly wasn't a strength of mine. I hadn't done hackathons or coding competitions. In fact, I hadn't picked up my first language until 10th grade. But what I did know what I was good at was bringing together an eclectic mix of interests. Music, drawing, leadership, design, organization, website design. In other words, a combo of hard and soft skills. And so I took something I was not good at, cooking, an interest born from hours playing the now deprecated Restaurant City game on Facebook, and hours watching Gordon Ramsay memes on YouTube, and found a way to connect all of my interests together through the mesh of a pop-up restaurant. So what did I end up with? A project that no one else had. Social impact. While I did manage to raise over $1,000 for a local food charity, I also managed to impact my community in another way. To be precise, my interest-fueled project demonstrated that ordinary high schoolers like my friends and I, who had no experience in cooking, much less running a restaurant, could achieve something extraordinary, which is exactly how I framed it in my college application essay. Remember, even in the most desolate and gloomy of places, like the basement of a high school cafeteria, can a dream or aspiration blossom into something beautiful, as long as we continue to tend to it with the belief that yes, we can do it.